Good morning all and welcome to the South Carolina Public Service Commission. Today is Tuesday, October 8, 2024 and it is approximately 10 a.m. We are here for the scheduled hearing in docket number 2024-203-E concerning the Kingstree East 230 LLC application for Certificate of Environmental Compatibility and Public Convenience for the construction and operation of a 249 megawatt solar facility in Williamsburg County, pursuant to South Carolina Code Annotated 58-33-10. First, I would like to do a roll call of commissioners, and it appears that all commissioners are present in the hearing room. Who is here on behalf of Kingstree East 230 LLC?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I'm Charlie Terraney. I represent Kingstree 230 East LLC or East 230 LLC. Matthew Mears is with me. He is the project manager for the project, and my co-counsel Alex Shishes is here.
Welcome, gentlemen. In the hearing room, we have also intervener Cheryl Lane. Is that correct? Yes. All right. We have several parties that are virtual, and I'm going to go to the list. They are parties by statute. First would be South Carolina Department of Environmental Services. Ms. Dickman, are you present?
Yes, I am, sir.
All right. It's my understanding you entered a letter into the docket yesterday. Did you want that letter to be entered into the record in this case?
Yes, sir.
All right.
My understanding is that counsel for ORS and counsel for the applicant are agreeable with that.
All right.
We are, Mr. Chairman.
No objections?
No.
All right. South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, Mr. Boyles. Not present. South Carolina Department of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism, Mr. Parrish. Williamsburg County, Mr. Kelvin Washington, County Supervisor. Are you present?
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning and welcome. And the Office of Regulatory Staff, who is here on behalf of the Office of Regulatory Staff?
Good morning, Chair Powers and members of the Commission, Donna Rainey and Chad Torrey on behalf of ORS.
Thank you very much. We've had some corrections that had to be made and has us just a few minutes late. Are there any other matters we need to discuss before we begin? Ms. Lane.
Yes, sir. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be here. This is definitely uncharted territory for me. I'm much more comfortable in a classroom, but if I didn't stand up for Williamsburg County, I'm not sure who could. I've been placed in a very strategic spot for me to be able to speak for my community. I have been advised by those people that you do not see here for me to speak from the heart. So I am absolutely opposed to the construction of utility scale projects in Williamsburg County. We tried desperately to speak with our county council about issues that we had. We did not get very far. At this moment, I would also like for the commissioners and council and regulatory staff and whoever else is here to understand that our comprehensive plan for Williamsburg County, the last time that it was written was 2007. It was updated once. 2002 was the last one. 2007 was the next update. Since then, we have not had an update, as far as I know, to our comprehensive plan. And from what I read, that leaves anything that goes on in Williamsburg County as legally challenging. I just
All
want
right,
that on the record.
Thank you, Ms. Lane. I take that as an opening statement.
I meant to
because-
say, please let
okay.
me speak.
Does
Sorry.
anyone else want to make an opening statement now that we've started that way? All right. Thank you very much. We've entered the letter filed by South Carolina DHEC on October 7th, 2024, and I'm going to go ahead and mark it as exhibit number 1. All right, Mr. Torini,
Mr.
I'm going to
Chairman.
turn it over to you.
Thank you. As a preliminary matter, I'd like to introduce the application into evidence as exhibit number 2, if that
All right,
pleases the commission.
Application will be placed in the record, marked and placed in the record as exhibit number 2.
And we are ready to call our first witness if the commission's ready to hear testimony.
I'm ready.
All right, we'll call Kristen Rezar to the stand. She's appearing virtually.
All right, let's get, Ms. Rezar, is that how I pronounced your name properly?
Yes, Risar.
Okay, and can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Everyone can hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can. Would you please raise your right hand for me to be sworn? You solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you. Your witness.
Ms. Rezar, please state your name. Once again, please state your name, but also your occupation and business address.
Charles, I can barely hear you.
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Got it. Are we better? Great.
That's much better.
So please tell us your name, occupation, and business address.
Yes, my name is Kristen Risar. I work as an acquisition manager for Inca Investments. Business address is Bargalon 20, 233 CT, Leiden, Netherlands.
And you're joining us from Leiden, Netherlands today, right?
I am joining you from the Netherlands, not specifically Leiden.
Okay. And did you prepare or cause to be prepared 10 pages of direct testimony pre-filed in this docket?
Yes.
Do you wish to make any changes to your direct testimony?
No.
If I were to ask you the questions in your direct testimony today, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I move to admit the direct testimony of Kristen Rezar into evidence as if given orally from the stand.
The pre-filed direct testimony of this witness will be entered into the record as given orally from the stand.
Ms. Rezar, do you have a summary of your testimony to give the commission?
Yes, I do.
Please do.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kristen Risar, and I am testifying to support the application of Kingstree East 230 LLC for a certificate of environmental compatibility and public convenience and necessity for a 249 megawatt solar farm in Williamsburg County. I am the development lead for this project and have been involved with it since early 2020. The project, which I refer to as Kingstree East in my direct testimony, is owned by Inca Investments, which is the investment arm of Inca Group, which is the largest IKEA retailer globally. In addition to renewable energy, Inca Investments also invests in forest land, circularity, and other investments that support our core business and also manages the group's liquidity of 26 billion euro. Climate change is one of the biggest threats already impacting many people's lives. And as a business, we believe we have a role to play by accelerating the development of a net zero carbon society. The Kingstree East project is part of Inca's 7.5 billion euro commitment to support the transition to renewable energy. To date, Inca Investments has already invested over 4 billion euro in renewable energy achieving a total capacity of 2.3 gigawatts, which is enough to power more than 1.5 million households annually. I joined Inca Investments in 2019. Before joining Inca Investments, I worked in various M&A roles related to asset investment, including real estate acquisition and development across the U.S. I have a bachelor's of business administration in real estate and urban and land economics, risk management and insurance, and economics from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and an MBA from Columbia Business School at Columbia University. As part of my job, I work across all renewable disciplines and manage renewable project acquisition and investment within Inca's renewable energy portfolio, including developing a 1.7 gigawatt solar pipeline in the US. I have also overseen investments in 2 solar projects and a battery project in the US, as well as wind and solar investments encompassing 19 projects worldwide. The Kingstree East project will likely affect 3 land parcels, which total around 4,700 acres and are presently used as timberland. But please note, we plan to use less than 1/3 of this area. In addition, we have also identified 1,020 acres of wetlands on the site, all of which we intend to avoid. Inca chose the Kingstree East site for several reasons. 1, its size and secluded location make it well suited to solar development. 2, South Carolina has above average solar irradiance. 3, the site is close to a transmission line. And 4, Williamsburg County supports the project. Also, Williamsburg County recently passed a solar ordinance, which will apply to our project and to which we intend to comply. This ordinance provides for setbacks, buffering, and screening of the facility from public roads, right-of-ways, residences, and churches using fences, walls, and vegetative buffers under certain circumstances. The ordinance also mandates financial guarantees and a decommissioning plan to ensure the facility's deconstruction and site restoration at the end of its life. Because the electricity market is regulated in South Carolina, Kingstree East will sell its output by being selected in an RFP or negotiating a PPA. As the application mentions, Kingstree East is participating in Santee Cooper's current solar energy RFP. Because of the project size, Kingstree East does not qualify as a qualified facility under PURPA, so utilities aren't obliged to purchase its output. The project owner, not utility customers, will be responsible for all construction expenses of the project. For these reasons, I respectfully request that the Commission find this project serves the public interest and approve the application.
Thank you. Ms. Resar, please answer any questions that the parties may have for you or the commissioners.
Thank you, Ms. Torini and Ms. Rezar. I'm going to go through the interveners to see if there are any questions. Ms. Dickman, do you have any questions for this witness?
No, I don't, sir.
Thank you. DNR. Parks, Recreation, and Tourism. Mr. Washington, Williamsburg County, do you have any questions for the witness?
No, sir, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lane, do you have any questions for the witness?
Yes. I can get the mic to come on. I have lots of questions.
Would you pull that microphone closer to you?
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now? Okay. First of all, Ms. Resar, in your direct testimony, I noted that Inca is the lead for another solar project in Williamsburg County. Could you tell me where that project is located?
I can tell you the location relative to the site, which I believe is about approximately 30 miles away.
So you don't know the name of the
On the
community.
west side of Kingstree,
But you don't know the name of the
along
community.
Manning Highway.
Okay. Could you tell all of those in listening ability what the megawatt proposed is for that site?
Megawatt proposed for that site is 74.9 megawatts.
And what is the cutoff for applying for the threshold for the certificate of environmental compatibility?
I am not 100% sure. I believe it is around 75 or 80 megawatts.
Well, you said in your direct testimony that it was below the threshold,
Yes, it is below the threshold.
Mr.
but
Chairman,
you're not sure what the threshold is.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Could Dr. Lane point us to the passage of the direct testimony she's citing to, please?
Yes, ma'am. When, Ms. Lane, when you refer to something, please let them know what number or what page line that you're on so that we can all follow along. And please keep the remarks in the form of a question.
Matthew, would you pass me those glasses, please?
Well, I know I read it.
Did she say that? I don't remember.
Top of page 3, line 2.
Chair Powers.
Commissioner Thomas.
I see another reference, I believe, on page 4, line 7, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm fine. I was just trying to follow along.
All right. Ms. Lane, you can proceed.
Okay. I had a problem with the testimony in that in some places there's reference made to AC power and DC power. So I would like some clarification because there is definitely a difference between direct current that comes from the solar panels and the AC current, and then that then has to go into the batteries.
Is that a question?
Ms. Reesar, could you explain the difference between AC and direct current?
I would say that one of our engineers that we have as additional witness would do a far better job than I would explaining the details of AC versus DC current.
Well, the reason I ask you is because it was in your testimony. For example, page 3, there's reference to DC current in line 15. Inca owns 13 operating solar projects across 4 countries, parentheses, 605 megawatt DC power. But in the application, it says, application for Kingstree East 230 LLC, and about the 4th line down, it says 249 megawatts AC solar. And I'm not sure if the battery facility is still in the application. All right, so the battery.
There's no battery facility in this application. That was a typo in the original application,
Right.
I believe.
Well, my question is, from my science background, you can't talk about AC without talking about DC, and you can't talk about DC without talking about AC. Because if I understand correctly, and if this needs to be a question, I'll ask it as a question. How does the sunlight hit the solar panel? Does it create AC or DC power?
Again, I would say that one of our engineers on the panel is far better equipped to answer that question. I can answer it, but it will not be as accurate as an engineer's response.
Ms. Laney, there are other witnesses who may be better able to answer your question. This is not unusual for someone to refer to another witness for an answer.
Well, I just thought if it was her direct testimony that she'd be able to answer the question. Well, may I ask the question, how can you plan to construct a solar utility project and not take into consideration the AC versus the DC power?
We do take this into consideration, but we have a large project team of various expertise that specialize in this detail and this information. I am the project lead, but I do not have the specific engineering design and details. We have other panelists as witnesses who can speak to that.
So do I go on?
Whenever we ask you questions, and then we'll move on to the next person.
Okay, well, can the record show that that was not answered?
The record's going to show what the record shows.
Okay. Let me see if I can find the line. So how would you rank this facility? Now, we're talking Kingstree East now, not Kingstree West. Okay, I'll come back to Kingstree West since you mentioned that in your testimony. But Kingstree East, if this is correct, then a 249 megawatt AC facility that at some point in time we'll have to have, will go from DC to AC.
Correct.
How would this compare to other utility scale projects already in South Carolina or in the United States?
How this would compare in what
Size, megawatts.
as far as size and megawatts?
Right.
Again, I don't have a scale of how this compares in size across the U.S. I believe that Matthew Mears has prepared as part of his testimony some of this information.
Well, the reason I ask is because in line 15 on page 3, you say that you own 13 solar projects across 4 countries. And then you mention in another place, I can't pronounce it, MISAE in Texas. And this is a 240 megawatt. So is that big?
I would say that it is utility scale, which places it in the large sized category.
I think the point I'm trying to get to is how does this solar utility project compare to what's already being built or has been built in South Carolina, so that the commission and anyone else who is listening can see the magnitude of the importance of what happens here. So I just wondered if you knew how this compares.
Again, the other panelist, Matthew Mears, has prepared this information, including the interconnection queue for projects showing the relative size in South Carolina and what's in the pipeline and what's being constructed.
Okay. You state that you've been involved in this project since 2020. In 2020, this property was owned by whom?
Land was owned by Inca Investments Forest Assets, LLC.
Who owned this land prior to that?
I do not know.
You don't know who Sustainable Growth LLC is?
No.
At the top of page 3, when you said that the other solar utility project, or let me read it. You said that you have been I also serve as the Inca lead for another solar project located in Williamsburg County that is currently in the pre-construction stage, but is smaller than the threshold requiring the certificate of environmental compatibility. What do you consider pre-construction?
Pre-construction can mean many ranges of things, but it still means that we're in the feasibility stage to see if it's a viable project.
So would you be surprised if I have DHEC violations from that site?
Yes, sir.
We're talking about a different project in a different pre-construction stage. I just object to the relevance of this question.
It's in her testimony, and she's described what she's asking about. I'm going to allow it, but I hope we can move on a little bit faster than we're going here.
Thank you.
So would pre-construction include clear cutting, grubbing, planting grass? And
that's part of the process. Correct.
With the proper permits? Correct. So, my Freedom of Information Act material for Kingstree West, since you brought it up, leads me to believe that your company might have some issues. Oh, I left bulldozing out. And I left out 3 to 4 truckloads of sand every day. And I left out improper silt fences. And the list goes on. And by the way, I can document all of this in my FOIA material. My FOIA request from South Carolina Department Environmental Services for Kingstree West 115.
Ma'am, you need to direct your questions to the witness. I can't make any comment on.
Right. The last thing that I would like to note is, in your testimony, let me ask you a question. May I come back and direct anything to her after today, or is this it?
This is it.
Okay, on the top of page 5, Ms. Resar says that climate change is one of the biggest threats already impacting many people's lives. And in a business, we have a role to play by accelerating the development of net zero carbon society. We continue to explore how investments and acquisitions can help our business, while at the same time supporting innovation that makes a positive difference to people and the planet. My question is how, in any case, whether it's Kingstree East or Kingstree West, does clear cutting thousands of acres of trees, which are nature's #1 carbon sequestration units, how does that equal net zero carbon?
We believe that carbon avoidance, which renewable energy provides, is also a valuable and important way forward in achieving a net zero society. And our panelists, Debbie Glick and Matthew Mears, can go into more detail, but we also believe that the carbon sequestration of carbon avoidance from renewable energy far surpasses that than the biomass from forest land.
Okay. Well, since you brought up the part about carbon, then how does all this fit together with IKEA's FSC certification of continued forest sustainability?
Well, we will still meet our FSC requirements while investing in renewable energy.
Maybe
FSC also has their own requirements and their own guidelines when it comes to renewable energy development.
just for the record, could you explain to the commissioners and anyone else who is listening what FSC stands for?
I can say that I work in our renewable energy portfolio, not with our forest land portfolio. So it means, I guess the FSC is Forest Stewardship Council.
It could.
But again, I work within our renewable portfolio. We work closely with our forestry portfolio, but this lies within their area of expertise. But we have discussed and checked with the council to make sure that we meet all of their guidelines.
Okay. Page 5, line 11. The Kingstree East project. Now we're talking about, just for the record, so that people who listen to this later will understand, this is all the way across Williamsburg County in another community, which if my Hemingway and Neesmith people are watching, this is who I'm talking about for you. The Kingstree East project is well suited to solar development because of its close proximity to a transmission line. Are you considering this current voltage on this transmission line, or is this one that would have to be stepped up?
This is best answered by Matthew Mears, who is also on this panel. He can give more details on the interconnection point and the relevant details.
I just brought it up because it was in your testimony. On page 7 of 10, based on both the resource plans of Santee Cooper and Central, and I think you mean Central Carolina, is that correct?
Yeah, I meant the Central Electric Co-op.
The expected growth in demand for clean renewable solar power, we believe there's a strong market for this proposal. I'm just going to read because I know I did not enter this as testimony. I think this is the right spot. This was actually in the Post and Courier, August the 4th, 2024.
No, ma'am, that would not be admissible.
Can I ask her about it?
Ask her a question about what she submitted, but
Okay, are you aware that the Santee Cooper spokesperson, Molly Gore, said that the utility currently has no plans to take power from this proposed project, and any contract we issue for solar power comes after a competitive procurement process as approved by the Public Service Commission, end quote. She also said, Ms. Molly Gore, I'm asking if you're aware of this. It's possible Kingstree East LLC will submit a proposal, and if it does, its offer, quote, would be thoroughly reviewed along with other proposals that are submitted before any decisions are made, end of quote. Are you familiar with this article?
Yes, vaguely. It came out several months ago, so I don't have the details of it memorized.
Are you familiar, do you understand the content thereof?
That you just read? Yes.
Yes. That it's possible Kingstree East LLC will submit a proposal, and if it does, it would be thoroughly reviewed along with other proposals. So I think you would agree with me, or do you agree with me, that that means it's not a given that Santee Electric is going to buy in?
I agree it's not a given, and as part of my submitted testimony, I said that we submitted an RFP with Santee Cooper under this.
Top of page 8, you said additional acreage affected by the project. Do you have additional tax map numbers, or are you talking about the land within? Oh, I know what I want to know. What are the additional parcels that you mentioned?
The additional parcels are not tax parcels. I'm trying to find this testimony to see if I use the
Mr.
word
Chairman.
parcels.
I just want to gently object that she never referenced any additional parcels.
Page 7, answer 14. The site project will affect 3 parcels of land totaling approximately 4,700 acres.
Correct, but Dr. Lane referenced page 8, lines 1 through 3, where she was talking about additional acreage affected by the parcel.
You're
So I think
correct.
the question's confusing because additional acreage is not the same thing as additional parcels. It's additional acreage within the parcels. I'm just trying to make sure the record's clear.
I stand corrected. He's correct. But I do have my note on page 7 when Ms. Resar.
Stick with questioning now.
Right. Okay. On page 7, line 13, she was asked, please describe the project. And the response was, the project site will affect 3 parcels of land. I would like to know which 3 parcels of land.
I do not have the tax IDs for these parcels in front of me. I believe they were submitted as part of the application. However,
okay, on page 8, the question was, does Kingstree East have the local government support for the project? The project is in unincorporated Williamsburg County. Early in the development process, 2022, we discussed the project with the county's economic development director. Who was that person?
I will have to, I do not recall. That person is no longer with the county.
Okay, next line. Additionally, the county council approved a special source revenue tax, special revenue credit to encourage the project, which is standard in the renewable energy business and without which the project would not be feasible. Can you tell me the date on the most current version of that? That's very important to me.
The exact date of the agreement, I do not know. I can give you an approximate month and year.
Go ahead.
I believe it is May 2023.
How long is the special source revenue credit good for?
do not know the specifics, but we do have a executed agreement that covers the land parcels at this site.
Do you know the title of the document?
I do not have it memorized, no.
If I can only ask questions, this could take forever. So it's very critical to me because I know exactly what that document looks like. I have read it. I have slept with it. I know it up one side and down
Ma'am,
the
you're
other.
making an argument. You don't
Right. Okay.
direct yourself to the witness or
Right.
to let someone else have their turn.
Page 9. Question. Go down to line 6. This includes a comprehensive environmental assessment process. Is that referenced anywhere with a footnote? Did anyone ask for a copy of that? And if not, could you provide it?
Is that a question to me or?
Yes.
I don't have anything to provide you right now today.
So
as part of our submission evidence. Can
And
you
I
provide reference?
Excuse me. I know I read in here, I can't seem to find it, but where you stated that you did not believe that this project would cause any type of environmental impact to Williamsburg County. And I just would like to ask you again what your educational background is.
You want my educational background?
Yes, because you said that you did not believe this would cause any environmental impact.
I said that solar farms provide minimal impact. My educational background is in business. I have an undergraduate and a graduate business degree.
I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lane. ORS.
No questions.
One, I want to correct one thing, Mr. Torini. When you introduced her testimony, I think there's also a confidential version.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate you bringing that up. Do I need to introduce them both?
What I'm going to do, the pre-file confidential version of her direct testimony of Ms. Razar will be entered into the record and will remain confidential as long as necessary.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner questions? Commissioner Carolee Williams.
Thank you, Chair Powers. Good morning, Ms. Razar, or good night. What time is it where you are?
But good morning. I'll take good morning.
Okay. In your testimony on page 8, there is a reference that Williamsburg County does not have zoning. Can you tell me more about that? And can you tell me anything about the relationship of zoning to the comprehensive plan?
I can give you some big picture
Okay.
overview, which is that it's unincorporated. As I understand, there is a comprehensive plan. Recently solar ordinance was passed, which would apply to this project and to which we intend to comply. Detailed zoning information is best answered by one of the other panelists.
Do you have any knowledge of what the comprehensive plan recommended for this area?
No, I am not entirely sure of that. I believe Matthew Mears has better knowledge of that.
Okay.
He's our local man on the ground, so he has many of the more detailed information.
Thank you. And we have learned the hard way. It is easier for us to start by asking the first person questions, understanding that you may defer them to the more appropriate person later on. And so in that same spirit, Mr. ORS's witness Bickley talks about the Department of Natural Resources and that they and Kingstree are still engaged in resolving their comments. Can you add any more to that and in terms of an update over anything that might have been filed?
Yes, our panelist Rick Thomas has been engaging directly with them and can give a better update than I can.
Okay. Thank you very much. No further questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. Commissioner Caston.
Thank you. And, well, good morning here, Ms. Razar.
Yes, good morning.
On page 3, lines 15 through 16, you state that Inca owned 13 operating solar projects in 4 countries, I think for a total of 605 megawatts DC. Is this the largest solar project Inca has initiated?
The largest solar project that we have developed from point zero, yes. The largest solar project that we have been involved with, no.
Will this particular project, this proposed project, will it, on this 4,700 acres, will this project be the build out for this property?
You mean, is the solar farm the only build out we intend to do on this property?
Yes, ma'am. Will this 249 megawatts be all that's placed on that 4,700 acres?
Correct. The 4,700 acres are just the parcels affected. The footprint itself of the solar project will be less than a third of that, and the remaining acreage we intend to keep as timberland.
Okay, thank you. Do you have an opinion on whether? First of all, let me ask you this: are you familiar with Santee Cooper and Central's IRP?
Not in incredible detail.
All right, well, that'll save me asking the next question.
Okay.
Thank you. As a private company, Inca, this project will be totally funded by Inca, is that correct?
Correct.
So, no regulated utility customers have any risk or jeopardy with the viability of this facility or the decommissioning of this facility. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Inga reach out to adjacent property owners or have any public forums or public meetings relative to this proposed project?
Aside from the hearing for the SSRC agreement, there has been nothing public regarding this project, and we have not held community meetings or reached out to neighbors yet. It is still very early in the process, and we do not have the relevant details yet that would be prudent to share.
Are you aware of any public complaints or pushback?
Aside from our intervener that is in the courthouse now, we have not received objections.
Okay, this really isn't a question. Perhaps, going forward, the maps, some of the legends, I really couldn't read. Print was too small on some of the maps, but maybe going forward, if make those maps bigger and legends bigger. But that's all the questions I have. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Caston. Commissioner Belson. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. So, I think I heard you say that you personally were not aware of input or concerns from the community. Is that correct?
For this project, again, yes, except for the Dr. Lane. No.
Okay. And the other project on the other side of the county that's been mentioned, are you aware of input with regards to that project from the community?
Yes, there has been some objections spearheaded by Dr. Lane. And as part of the solar ordinance, there were, or I believe that is what brought about the solar ordinance. And our other panelist, Matthew Mears, has reached out to local residents regarding that project.
Okay, and so I gather that the company would hope to sell the power to Santee Cooper. Is that correct?
For this Kingstree East project, yes, we would hope to sell the power to Santee Cooper, and we have submitted an application to their RFP.
And is there any other possible, realistically possible entity that may purchase the power that you're aware of if Santee Cooper doesn't end up working out?
Yes, there's other options. It's a regulated market, so we would have to look into a corporate PPA or to see if there's another RFP that this project could potentially work with.
All right, and so there's been discussion about property taxes and property taxes benefiting the local communities, but at the same time, you mentioned the special source revenue credit, and that basically without that, this project would not be feasible. Can you tell me what impact that special source revenue credit has on the amount of taxes that will be paid to the county?
Relative to the site's current use?
Well, yes, that's part of it.
Okay. I can say that our other panelist, Matthew Mears, has looked into this in detail. especially, but, you know, we can say that I believe that this would bring in approximately $800,000 annually to the county.
And so that would be after it's fully developed and operational. You believe that it would be contributing about 800,000 a year, I think is what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And I believe you mentioned Mr. Mears could talk about that a little bit more. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Mr. Trini, any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Next witness.
All right, we're going to call Rick Thomas.
Mr. Thomas? How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, would you please raise your right hand? You solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay.
Your
Right.
witness.
Thank you. Sorry for stepping on you there. All right. Rick, give your full name and where you work, your title, how long you've worked there.
Yes, my name is Rick Thomas. I lead the Environmental and Energy Group at Timmons Group. My business address is 1001 Boulders Parkway, Suite 300, Richmond, Virginia. And I have been an employee of the Timmons Group for 31 years.
Okay. All right. Now how many years have you worked as a consultant?
Approximately 35 years.
And specializing in what?
Primarily natural resource assessment and environmental permitting.
All right. Where'd you go to college?
James Madison University in Harrisonburg, Virginia.
And what degree did you get?
Bachelor of Science in Economics.
All right. And any other relevant training?
I've received specialized training in wetland science required for my professional registration.
Okay. Coming to that, professional licenses and certifications?
Yes, I am a professional wetland delineator recognized in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and I am a member of the Society of Wetland Scientists and the Virginia Renewable Energy Alliance.
All right. Have you written scholarly publications on the matter?
No.
Okay. Has your work, your submissions of relevant documents, has it ever been peer reviewed?
Peer reviewed in the context of like an academic peer review?
Either an academic or someone who has specialized training when we're filing a permit application?
Yes, they are all peer reviewed.
Okay. All right. At this point, I'm going to move to offer this witness as an expert in the field of natural resource assessment.
Any objection from any party? He is accepted as an expert.
All right. Okay. Mr. Thomas, did you prepare a cause to be prepared, 6 pages of direct testimony pre-filed in this docket?
Yes.
Okay. And along with an updated permit matrix?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to make any changes to your pre-filed testimony or the updated permit matrix?
No.
Okay. Just to clarify things, I want to talk real briefly about the updated permit matrix. And let's look at the first 3 rows under local permits. Precisely, if you could just tell what was changed.
There was an incorrect reference to the county, the locality for which this project was is located.
Okay.
We corrected it from Darlington County to Williamsburg County.
Okay, and how about the links?
Those links were all.
Okay, all right.
I'm having a hard time hearing the witness. He needs to speak louder, get closer to the microphone, and not trail off at the end if we could. Thank you.
I agree.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Now, in addition, did you prepare the Timmons report that's been pre-filed with the application already admitted as exhibit in this case?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if I were to ask you the questions in your direct testimony, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
Okay, I move to admit the direct pre-filed testimony of Rick Thomas into evidence as if given orally, and for the updated permit matrix to be admitted as an exhibit.
The pre-filed direct testimony of Mr. Thomas will be entered into the record as if given orally from the stand. The pre-filed exhibits of witness Thomas identified as RT1 and updated RT1 will be marked for identification and placed in the record as exhibit number 3.
All right, Mr. Thomas, I apologize.
Excuse me just a second. Did you want to submit the original and the updated or just the updated?
Just the updated.
Okay, that's
Thank
my
you.
mistake then. It would just be, exhibit number 3 will be the updated. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Thomas, do you have a summary of your testimony for the commission?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Rick Thomas, and I am testifying in support of the application of Kingstree East 230 LLC for a certificate of environmental compatibility and public convenience and necessity for a 249 megawatt solar generation facility in Williamsburg County. The purpose of my testimony is to discuss my findings and conclusions of environmental studies conducted for the applicant. I am the environmental lead for this project and have been involved with it since its inception. My studies include a threatened and endangered species analysis, a cultural resource analysis, and a wetland delineation. We do not anticipate that the project will have any adverse impact on state and/or federally listed species, nor foresee that wetlands will be affected. Pursuant to sections 401 and 404 of the Clean Water Act, the project will consult with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers if impacts to federal jurisdictional wetlands and streams are anticipated. A field wetland delineation was performed to determine the limits of the waters of the U.S. on site. The only planned impacts would be a limited number of temporary and permanent stream crossings. For this project, construction can be undertaken under a nationwide 404 permit and 401 water quality certification, specifically nationwide permit 57 for electrical utility lines and telecommunication activities. According to South Carolina Department of Natural Resources Natural Heritage Database, there are no recorded occurrences of species of concern in the project area. Although we assess that the potential impact on federally or state listed species is minimal or non-existent, we are maintaining ongoing consultations with South Carolina Department of Natural Resources and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to address protected species, design considerations, and stream crossings. As the project progresses, field delineated wetlands and streams will be verified by the United States Army Corps of Engineers, and some perpendicular crossings may be necessary. If wetland or stream impacts are required, Kingstree East 230 will obtain the appropriate permits for any impacts to jurisdictional wetlands and streams. Wetlands and streams form a natural wildlife corridor, and as they will generally not be impacted by the project, will remain as interior corridors for wildlife utilization. Wetlands and streams are outside of the fenced area, so free passage of wildlife will be allowed for the duration of the project. As discussed by Circa Cultural Resource Management's President Carol Tyre in her testimony, Circa's review did not identify any cultural resource issues that would prevent the construction and operation of the project. In short, the proposed facility is not likely to have significant adverse impacts on the environment, including wetlands, protected species, and cultural resources. The impacts to the environment, if any, are limited to the immediate area where the solar panels are situated. In addition to having few adverse impacts, the project is expected to have numerous beneficial environmental impacts. Based on the EPA's Avoided Emissions and Generation tool, AVERT, it is expected that the renewable energy produced by the project will result in the avoidance of 290,280 tons of carbon dioxide and 55,620 pounds of particulate matter entering the air, compared to the energy produced by conventional sources. Additionally, the disturbed area will be planted with non-invasive vegetation that may also provide pollinator habitat. Vegetation and land management practices will be used to restore the soil conditions on site during the lifespan of the project, as opposed to continued silviculture use. Therefore, I conclude that any impacts to the environment associated with the construction of the facility are justified. This concludes the summary of my direct testimony.
All right, thank you, Mr. Thomas. If you could answer any questions any of the other parties or the commissioners have for you, thank you very much.
Thank you. First, we'll go to the interveners. Department of Environmental Services, any questions?
No, sir.
Thank you. Department of Natural Resources, Department of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism. Mr. Washington with Williamsburg County, County Supervisor. Any questions?
No, sir, Your Honor. I have no questions.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lane, any questions?
First of all, I think that you said that this was conducted, the study was conducted by Seedbox Consulting.
Portions of our environmental analysis were conducted by Seedbox Consulting. Yes, ma'am.
Could you explain who Seedbox Consulting is?
Yes, its primary principal is a gentleman by the name of Chris Ludwig, and he is the former lead scientist for the Virginia Department of Natural Heritage.
I saw that he was certified by U.S. Fish and Wildlife to do these types of surveys in Virginia. Is he certified to do these surveys in South Carolina?
There are certain species for which Chris Ludwig is qualified to perform in South Carolina.
So let me ask that question again. Is Mr. Ludwig qualified to conduct surveys on all of the species that he reported on, as well as the ones that were suggested by DNR?
I do not know the answer to that question.
So the record can show that. I would like to ask you to operationally define on Mr. Ludwig's Seedbox Consulting report. The next to the last line says, as a part of this continuous survey. Could you operationally define continuous?
I believe that's just a descriptive word that indicates that he was performing a study that will continue.
Well, 2 lines before that, he says that he conducted surveys from June 12th to June 15th. The bird observation was continuous. Okay, I'll just move on. I would like to know why, because on the maps provided by the Timmons Group, there are several notations, one I'm sure of Gapway Bay. Gapway Bay, do you know what that is?
No, ma'am.
Should I answer my own question? No.
No, ma'am, you ask a witness questions, you don't get to.
Do you know if Gapway Bay is a Carolina Bay or not?
I do not know that answer.
Do you know who protects Carolina Bays in South Carolina?
I'm going to object to that. It assumes facts not in evidence.
Objection sustained. Next question.
May I rephrase it?
You can try.
Try. Do you know if Carolina Bays are protected in South Carolina?
I presume that they are protected in South Carolina.
Do you know of another reference to the word bay on this map?
No.
I'd like to ask if there's a specific map or exhibit that Dr. Lane is using.
Yes.
And
yes.
to help the witness to reference it.
It will help witness and the commissioners. Please let us know where you.
Okay, it says Figure 1 vicinity map, project study limits, and it says Gapway Bay. And the project lines run through the word Gapway Bay.
Chair Powers.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Lane, Chair Powers, I am looking at something that says page 6 of 10. Could Dr. Lane tell us if that's the right reference?
Yes, we have a page number.
Mr. Chairman, it's part of the environmental report, and it's this was submitted in several sections, which is what the problem is, and so it's the section that is associated with Mr. Ludwig's report that Seedbox Consulting that Dr. Lane referenced.
I see the area that is being referenced on the vicinity map that has the demarcation of the project limits that do cross what appear to be the term Gapway Bay. So I acknowledge that that is on the vicinity map.
Shall I go on? I'm not sure I got.
He answered your question. What's the next question?
Okay. Are you familiar with the South Carolina State Endangered Species List?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, did you know that the plant called sundews is on that list?
Not familiar with that particular species being on that list.
Okay, well, just let the record show he's not familiar with sundews as being on the list. I'd like for you to look. This says page 3 of 10, and it's in the packet that starts environmental review for Kingstree East.
I'm sorry, I need to interject here. It wasn't clear to me. Did the witness testify that he was or was not familiar with the sundew? I'm sorry, I may have misheard.
I stated that I was not familiar with the term sundew relative to a South Carolina list of endangered species. I will note that sundews are not listed for Williamsburg County.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, well, I'm on page 3 of 10. I'm looking at the American chaff seed, and it says not observed. Do you know the flowering time of the American chaff seed? For South Carolina, be specific for South Carolina because it's regional information.
I'm not familiar with the flowering period for the chaff seed.
Are you familiar that you do need to know flowers to be able to identify somewhat obscure plants?
Yes, ma'am.
So the record shows. I also want to, okay, let me go back. When were the surveys completed?
In June of 2023. I'm sorry, 2024. No, I'm sorry, 2023.
So you're not familiar with the fact that that is not the correct bloom time? Not the best bloom time.
I'm sorry, at this point I'm going to object. The question suggests the answer that there is a particular bloom time for this species, which is not in the record. And if there was a document stating what the bloom time for the species was, we could be directed to it. That'd be one thing. Then she could be asked about what he knows or doesn't know. But until someone shows us a pre-filed bit of evidence about this issue, I'm going to have to object to it.
Well, it's not in evidence, and the commission will take the testimony as to what it's worth, and the question as to what it's worth. I don't know where she's going from here, but it is cross-examination. I hope we can move on with it.
Do you agree that swallowtail kites are listed as conservation birds of concern? I'm on page 4 of 10.
Yes.
Do you agree that swallowtail kites should be protected?
Yes.
What is the plan? Maybe that's the wrong question. How does your report address the plan for them to be protected?
We are consulting with the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources to develop an appropriate avoidance and mitigation plan for that particular species.
And the same thing, the questions down with the monarch butterfly. What is the best time of year to observe them? In Williamsburg County.
The status of the monarch butterfly is different from that of the swallow-tailed kite.
Did you present a title report as an exhibit? Page, oh wait a minute, that's not you, sorry. Can I have a break?
Ma'am?
May we have a break as soon as I finish?
Well, take it now. Well, once you finish, we may take a break.
Could you explain never mind, I'm finished.
Thank you, ma'am. ORS, any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. Any redirect?
All right,
Excuse me, commissioners first, I'm sorry. Commissioner questions? Commissioner Williams.
Thank you, Chair Powers. Good morning, Mr. Thomas.
Good morning.
Are you familiar with environmental laws in South Carolina?
Yes, ma'am.
And is Mr. Ludwig familiar with environmental laws in South Carolina?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you please provide us with updates on the material that you have submitted and the ongoing work that you have done related, working with U.S. Fish and Wildlife? Is there anything new to update there?
Not with regard to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Our consultation has primarily been with the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources.
Okay. Well, per our state statute, are you confident in the work that you've done with U.S. Fish and Wildlife that, that this project will will comply with all state and local, all federal laws?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And related to Department of Natural Resources, is there an update?
We have received a letter in comment of the application dated August 5th from the Department of Natural Resources. We've had a teleconference with Ms. Lori Ann Riggin of the Department of Natural Resources, and we are following the recommendations that are included in her August 5th letter regarding certain species and mitigation approaches for addressing and assuring that those species are not impacted.
Is the swallowtail, I'm out of my league, is the swallowtail kite included in that list?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall how that would be addressed?
Identification of its nesting location and providing a buffer around that nesting location during a certain time of year.
What kind of, how big is the buffer? Just out of curiosity. That's okay.
I don't see that handy, to be perfectly
Okay.
honest with you.
Okay. Are there any recommendations that are being put forward that will limit the time of year that construction can happen?
Most likely, yes. January 30th through May 31st.
Is your window of opportunity or what you need to avoid?
Avoid.
Okay. Is that practical? That might be a
ma'am.
question. Okay. I'm just checking over my notes. I think that's it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Mr. Thomas.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. Any other commissioner questions? Seeing none, any redirect?
Well, I had some redirect, but I don't have redirect anymore.
All right. Thank you very much. We will take our morning break now. It is approximately 20 to 12. We'll be back in 15 minutes. We'll try and start back at 11:55. We're in recess. Welcome back. We are on the record in docket number 2024-203-E, an application of Kingstree East LLC. We are in the middle of, or we are in the testimony from the applicant, and I would ask the applicant to call their next witness.
Just some housekeeping. We'd like to, if there's no other questions, for
You need to get on your mic for the court reporter, please.
I apologize. If there's no
You can
further,
pick it up.
if there's no further testimony for either is it Kristen Resar or for Rick Thomas, we'd ask that those witnesses be excused.
Well, as we always say, at your own risk, but
Upon my head be it. Thank you. All right. All right, we're going to. And we're going to call Carol Tyrer.
okay. Ms. Tyre,
Hi,
good morning. How are you?
good morning. I'm good.
Would you please raise your right hand to be sworn? Sir, would you please raise your right hand to be sworn?
Ms. Tyrer, can you hear?
I cannot hear you.
Okay.
Let me try again. Can you hear me now?
I can, yes.
Okay, would you please raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much. You're a witness.
All right. If you could state your full name for the record and where you work and your title and the years that you've worked there.
My name is Carol Tyrer. I am the president and owner of Circa Cultural Resource Management, LLC, otherwise known as Circa. My business address is 453 McCaw Circle, Suite 3, Williamsburg, Virginia, 23185. I have worked here for 19 years from when I started it in 2005.
Okay. All right. Now, let me just remind you as we're going forward, you're going to need to speak up for the court reporter. All right. Now, in total, how many years have you worked as a consultant and specializing in what?
43 years specializing in cultural resources, archaeology, and architectural history.
All right. And where'd you go to college?
I attended the University of Tennessee in Chattanooga and graduated there in 1984 with a Bachelor of Arts in English and American Language and Literature and a BA in Sociology and Anthropology. I attended the University of Denver and earned a Master of Liberal Studies, Global Studies, World History and Culture in 2012, and a Master of Arts in Professional Writing in 2022. And I'm currently enrolled at Liberty University pursuing a doctorate in history, and I'm in the dissertation stage of that process.
All right. Did you pre-file your CV with the commission?
Yes.
Okay. Briefly, what, if any, other non-university training do you have?
I'm not quite sure what you're asking for. Just 43 years of doing this every day.
I suppose it does. All right. Are there any other relevant licenses or certifications to this specialty?
Yes, I'm registered with the Register of Professional Archaeologists.
Okay. And has your work been published in scholarly journals?
Not necessarily in scholarly journals, but we write roughly 100 to 125 reports a year, which are all approved by the various state agencies and the Corps of Engineers.
And these state agencies, do you find that they're staffed by people with expertise in the field of
Yes.
cultural resources?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever been qualified as an expert witness in a hearing?
Yes, maybe 2012, 2013,
Yeah, and what field would that be?
archaeology.
Archaeology, okay. All right, at this point, I'm going to move to qualify this witness as an expert in the area of cultural resource analysis and archaeology.
All right. Is there any objection? Any party?
All right, Ms. Tyra? I'm
Yes.
sorry, I waited to see if there are objections.
There's no objection.
Okay, all right. All right, so Ms. Tyra, did you prepare a cause to be prepared, 7 pages of direct testimony pre-filed in this docket, along with that CV and a letter from the South Carolina Department of Archives and History?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to make any changes to your direct testimony at this point?
No.
You don't want to make, do you want to make any changes to your CV or that letter from SHPO?
No.
Okay, all right. Did you prepare the cultural resource analysis report that's been pre-filed with the commission and admitted as an exhibit?
Yes.
Okay. If I were to ask you the questions in your direct testimony today, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move to admit the direct testimony of Ms. Tyra into evidence as if given orally from the stand, and for her CV and the letter from South Carolina Department of Archives and History.
The pre-filed direct testimony of Ms. Carol D. Tyra will be entered in the record as given orally from the stand. Pre-filed exhibits of witness Tyra, known as CD 1 and 2, are marked for identification and placed in the record as exhibit number 4.
All right. So do you have a summary of your testimony for the commission?
Yes.
All right, let's hear it.
Good afternoon. My name is Carol Tyra, and I am testifying in support of the application of Kingstree East 230 LLC for a certificate of environmental compatibility and public convenience and necessity for a 249 kV AC solar PV generation facility located in Williamsburg County. The purposes of my testimony is to discuss my findings and conclusions of archaeological studies conducted for the applicant. I am the cultural resource lead for this project and have been involved with it since its inception. My studies include a survey of the property, preparation of documents under Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act, and a cultural resource analysis of the high probability areas. Section 106 applies because the project will receive a federal license from FERC and a CEC/PCN from the Commission. We concluded that the project's probability of affecting significant cultural resources is extremely low and recommended no additional survey work for the project. In undertaking our review, we consulted with the SHPO, and it recommended a survey of high probability areas in the site, which are areas defined under the Section 106 process as more likely to contain artifacts. We conducted contain artifacts or archaeological sites. We conducted a walkover and shovel testing to identify any obvious archaeological or architectural resources and analyze data accumulated during previous research on sites in the area. We found that silviculture practices have greatly impacted the land. After trees are harvested, the soil is mechanically chopped or raked with implements pulled by bulldozers to break up limbs, tree limbs, and loosen stumps. The planting area is then disked and plowed to create planting, raised rows, and planted with saplings. Harvesting, either by thinning or clear cutting, happens every 10 to 30 years. This process also uses bulldozers and other heavy equipment. This makes the recovery of intact artifacts very unlikely, We excavated 128 shovel tests in high probability areas and 168 shovel tests within 9 map projected sites, the previously identified site and a newly identified site. We visually surveyed the property. Most of the shovel tests located no artifacts. We found some handmade brick, glass fragments, and ceramics, which are fairly typical with this type of site. We presented our recommendations of no additional survey work to the SHPO along with our reports. SHPO concurred with our conclusions as in the July 10th, 2024 letter admitted into record, that concluding there is a low probability for the site to contain significant intact archaeological resources. This concludes the summary of my direct testimony.
Thank you, Ms. Tyrer. If you could answer any questions that any of the other parties or the members of the commission have for you.
Yeah.
Thank you. As far as interveners, any questions from the Department of Environmental Services? Department of Natural Resources, Department of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism. Mr. Washington, any questions?
No, sir, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lane, any questions? I just need to cut on your microphone. And if you would, pull it a little closer.
Is it Ms. Tyrer?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Have you done other studies in the South Carolina?
Yes.
Could you name the sites?
Well, I don't know if you would know the names of them, but we did some in along the coast around Georgetown, some around Columbia, and some around, I'm trying to think of the name of the area. We did some architectural survey work in Charleston.
Did you find any archaeological artifacts of note at any of those places?
Yes.
And how deep did you say the shovels were?
The shovel tests are typically 1.5 feet in diameter, sometimes 2 feet, and they go down to where you hit subsoil. And in this case, if you excavated them, I don't know if you're familiar with the way they do silviculture in that region, but they do the planting beds. So we excavated some shovel tests that were between the rows, and those were shallower shovel tests. So the shovel test depths were anywhere from, I'd say, 0.5 feet to 0.8 feet before you hit subsoil, and then and then on the rows they went down about 3 feet until we hit subsoil. And all of the shovel tests showed signs of mixed soils. There was the sandy silt and the clay all mixed in together, and there were also pieces of tree limbs and some stumps, and some of them we had to abandon because we hit stumps and things.
All right. So I think I have the right sheet. Can you see it?
I can't see the sheet. Yeah.
That is. It looks like an ellipse with test sites in it.
Uh-huh.
Is this yours?
I can't really see it. Can you tell me if it has
Ms. Lane, if it would help, we have someone who could put that, whatever you have, up on the big screen, and it would make it easier to see.
A docu. Thanks. So when you did this test, the trees were still standing?
And this one, yes.
So how
I
about
believe.
how?
Actually, I can't see what the legend says on there. Can you pull it out so I can see the legend? Still can't. Okay, I don't know what site number this one is, but okay.
Site 5.
In some areas, the trees were standing. In some of the areas, the trees were harvested. And in some of the areas, they were planting beds.
Does this represent all of the site samples that you did?
No, there were more excavations that we did on the property.
Okay. Would you expect to find more archaeological artifacts with trees standing or after clear cutting and bulldozing?
Well, the clear cutting and the bulldozing would, would probably show you more surface visibility. But what's important in archaeology is not just finding resources or artifacts, is if they're intact. And that's what we concluded was missing on this site because of the extensive silviculture that has taken place out there for almost 100 years. That process is very destructive to the land, and it moves the dirt around and it moves the artifacts. So even if you find artifacts, if they don't have any context, it can't answer important research questions.
Okay, but the applicant has requested permission to dredge. So could it be possible in the dredging process that complete artifacts could be found? And I have a reason for asking this. I'm just not sure I can keep the commissioners happy about how I ask it.
I don't know where they're dredging.
Am I incorrect that the applicant asked for permission to dredge? Am I incorrect?
You can only address this witness, Ms. Lane.
Are you aware that the applicant has asked for permission to dredge?
No.
I'm going to object to that. So I withdraw the objection.
Sustained objection. She obviously doesn't know.
So is it possible with future work on this site that complete artifacts could be found?
It could be possible, and that is why we prepared with the SHPO an emergency discovery plan that goes into place that if when they're doing their development, they locate any archaeological sites or anything like that, or any artifacts, and they would contact the SHPO. They stop work, they put a buffer up for 100 feet, and then they, I believe the buffer is 100 feet, and then they stop all work in that area until we have a chance to look at it and discuss it with the SHPO.
So who actually monitors activities like dredging to be sure that artifacts that are found are not just discarded and not taken into account?
I'm not sure who will be doing that work.
And in addition, I better not ask that. Well, I can ask it. If he objects, he can just object. So in your company, how many people are employed?
18.
I think that's it.
ORS, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioners? Commissioner Williams?
Thank you, Chair Powers. Ms. Tyre, this is really not a question, but it's rare when I can make a connection with somebody who took the path that I did not take in college. I was a anthropology major for about half a year, and you brought back some good memories in terms of shards that I processed for Old Salem. So not the purpose of your testimony, but thank you for the reminder.
You're welcome.
Any other commissioner questions? Any redirect?
No redirect. And if there are no other questions, we are going to ask that this witness be excused.
At your risk. Thank you. Call your next witness.
I just would like to make an inquiry. Our next witness is Matthew Mears. He's going to take a little bit longer than the others. Would you like us to proceed now, or would you rather break for lunch?
Well, I guess we could break for lunch now.
It's up. I mean, I'm not suggesting. I'm just asking. I mean,
Well, if it's going to be a long time and I don't want to interrupt the middle of your presentation, why don't we take what is really an early lunch and be back at 1:20? Does that work?
great for us. Thank you.